All right, we are live. Welcome, everyone. I'm Kelly O'Connor. I'm having to do this from my phone today. If you remember last week, I had a couple technical glitches and I haven't figured them out yet, so working on it. But today, we're looking at the architecture of permanent giving. That was the title for today. And over the last several weeks, we've been talking about generosity, about permanence, about the difference between intentions and outcomes, about why creating wealth and creating impact are actually different skills. Today, I want to take the next step because once you begin asking different questions, you naturally start looking for different answers. One of the questions I've been asking myself is this: what has to be true for charitable impact to outlive the donor? I like that question more than what makes someone generous or how much should someone give. Something far more powerful is what allows impact to continue. And the more I've studied philanthropy, the more I've become convinced that lasting impact doesn't happen by accident. It's designed. Think about architecture for a moment. No one walks into a beautiful building and says, "Man, I'm glad all these materials just accidentally landed in the right place." Every lasting structure begins with a blueprint. The same is true of philanthropy. Every lasting charitable strategy I've studied seems to share a handful of characteristics. The first is this: it isn't dependent on constant rescue. If a mission only survives because the same donors keep writing larger and larger checks, that's not permanence, that's dependence. The second characteristic surprised me. The strongest charitable strategies don't rely solely on future intentions. They reduce uncertainty. That's one of the reasons I've spent so much time talking about the difference between a promise and a plan. A promise, promises matter, right? Like bequests and estate plan giving. But permanence requires more than promises. The third characteristic is that they respect the donor. One of the biggest misconceptions I've encountered is the idea that creating greater impact always requires greater sacrifices. I don't think that's necessarily true. Matter of fact, I know it's not. Sometimes the answer isn't asking someone to do more. Sometimes it's helping what they're already doing become more durable. That was a mindset shift for me. The fourth characteristic is probably my favorite. They think in generations instead of campaigns. Campaigns have finish lines. Legacies don't. When someone starts asking, will this still matter 25 years from now? They're thinking differently, not just about giving, but about stewardship. And finally, every permanent strategy I've encountered starts with better questions. Again, we shift from how much can I give to what do I want this to accomplish? What continues after I'm long gone? What kind of future am I trying to help create? I've noticed something interesting. The people asking those questions rarely become less generous. If anything, they become more intentional. And I think intentional generosity has the potential to become enduring generosity. So maybe the architecture of permanent giving isn't really about money at all. Maybe it's about clarity. Maybe it's about purpose. Maybe it's about designing something that reflects your values long after you're no longer here to explain them. I'll leave you with one final thought. Every building begins with a blueprint. Every legacy begins with a question. The question is, are we asking the right ones? Thanks for joining me today. I genuinely would love to hear your thoughts in the comments.